good. It's good.
We're happy to have you, though, Rev.
Yes, we are so happy to have you, Rev. Well, good evening, Bethany family. As you guys know, it is 5:30. As you guys can see, it's time for a recap. And we have a special guest with us this evening. We want to give Reverend White a warm welcome to the recap family. The recap team. We like to recap, this word. Rev, you fit right in with this group.
All right. Good to see y'all. Good to be here.
And as always, we have our amazing yoga instructor, also Shady Queen, Miss Sister Des. I love messing with
Hey guys.
And down at the bottom with me is Brother Deacon McGee. I was gonna say Antoine McGee, but McGee. I like to say McGee. And if you guys do not know, my name is Brother Kevin, and we are the Recap family. But before we get into anything, before we discuss anything, we always say how important it is to share right now. On Engage yesterday, we talked about, being bedside Baptist. And, you may ask yourself, how can I still be a part of church? How can I still do my ministry at home? And a good way to start off is by pressing that share button. You never know whose life you are blessing with this conversation. So whether it's the recap, whether it's one of our panels on Tuesday or Thursday, or one of our incredible services from Word Impact or Encounter, I encourage you guys to share and also invite you guys to come on in and just drop your comments. We were blessed with yet another amazing segment of this Letting Go of Toxic People series. And there's a lot to discuss today. So I want to invite you guys on in. Post your questions, post your comments, and let's just have a good old time. But also let us know where you're tuning in from. We love to hear where you guys are tuning in. Last week, we had different people from all over with different weather. Some people were getting warm weather, some people were getting snow. So we like to hear where you're tuning in from because we have people tuning in from all over the world. But as we are allowing people to come on in and inviting people on in panel, how are you guys feeling today? How are you guys feeling?
Good.
Real good.
Did y'all get y'all superpowers yet?
did you hear? Wait, I heard that on the radio.
You didn't get your superpowers.
Just catch me up with this. What's going on with this whole thing?
So what's happening is Saturn and Jupiter are going to conjuncture. They're going to like orbit so close that it's going to look like one planet. People are calling it the modern day Christmas star. And I guess for giggles, people decided that we were going to mutate from.
No, this girl started it on Twitter. She put some comment on Twitter was like, "Black folks gonna get superpowers on the 21st."
Just black people.
Just black people.
Black people though, which is crazy.
And so everybody's been talking about what superpower they're gonna get.
Yeah.
That's crazy, but it's not going to happen for another 400 years, though.
After
tonight, another 400 years before it happens again.
Wow, that's amazing. So wait, let's have some fun. So if you did have a superpower, we already have some superpowers already. If you guys didn't know,
big facts.
Big facts, right? But if you did have a superpower, what would your superpower be?
Mine is easy. I'm flying.
You're flying? Okay.
Yeah.
Wait, Anton, I saw somebody said they wanted to get they were gonna fly through the air, and it was like a picture of Mary J. Blige like doing this the whole time. You know what it is you do all the time, Kevin? They were doing that through the air. I was dying.
That's my favorite J. So what would your favorite? So we have flying down here from Deacon. Rev, what would your superpower be?
Well, I think my daughter and I have had this conversation when she was really young, but if I had a superpower, since I've traveled so much, it would be wherever I go, I'd be able to speak the local language. I think that would be the coolest thing.
That'd
be
pretty cool.
Yeah, that would be dope.
That's a dope superpower.
I never thought about that.
Yeah, I never thought about that either.
Right, you fit right on with the recap.
I was gonna say.
Sister Dad, what about you?
I feel like I would want to be able to teleport like through time and stuff. Like not only to different places, but like through time.
Yikes.
Back and forth.
Yeah. Not change anything or like do anything, but just like
the witness.
Yeah, kind of like a
there you go.
Like a Doctor Strange type of thing. Just like go through different things and
I'd like to go back. I just don't know if I want to go forward. I don't know if I want to see
Right.
Yeah,
I'm scared. I'm being scared of that. But I think I would be I would have super speed. You get a lot done if you're faster, right? So going to Walmart, Sam's Club, all that, getting knocked down in an hour, you're done. You have more time during your day, right?
super speed.
It's super speed, right? So that's a good question to ask too. Those that are in the comments, what would your superpower be? Since we want to play around with, and joke around with this this topic. I heard it on the radio. I'm just like,
I've been seeing it since December 1st.
Oh my God.
The internet is hilarious. They have taken this and ran with it. It is so funny.
Yeah, people outside dressed up in superhero costumes doing this.
Waiting for the power to come.
Exactly.
You know what?
Oh my gosh.
People take it too far for me sometimes.
No, but the crazy thing is, because I know some people are very gullible, and people will probably be like outside standing in front of the moon waiting, like ready to absorb whatever power.
I pray. It's my prayer that they're not.
But somebody's gonna do
it. This world we live in, you never know. But
it's 2020. Anything goes.
This superpower. How much? We know we only use 10% of our brain. How much of the Holy Spirit power do we really tap into?
You know what?
I think about that all the time. We don't tap into that power, and it's right there. It's right there. We just don't tap into it.
So
on that note, let's jump right on into it.
You know how to segue right into it.
Bring it right back around.
Come on back. But no, as you can see, there is wisdom here at the Leadership of Bethany, right? And we continue to get more of that wisdom from our tweener. Even though he is a tweener, I say he has the wisdom like an old man. Pastor Nick, added additional layer to this letting go of toxic people series that we have been in for some weeks now. And he named this sermon in particular, Toxic Insecurity. Mm-hmm. That title right there, we talk about different things, talk about doubts, fears, and everything. But do we talk about insecurity a lot in our walk, with God? And when Pastor Nick was just running down this sermon, just different things, it just like opened up like my eyes to so many different things. How about you guys?
Same. As I say, time it's like a mirror.
It is. It definitely is. So Pastor Nick started in the book of Numbers, chapter 13, verse 25, and he said, when we notice the nation of Israel's walk from Egypt to the promised land, we notice some traits in the nation. We notice that as they are moving from one place to another, that the process between is revealing their nature. What nature is that? It took God one moment to get Israel out of Egypt, but it took years to get Egypt out of Israel. It took God some time to deliver them from the inside to match the deliverance on the outside. They were free physically, but still bound internally. Their struggles with doubt, unbelief, and faith were revealed in their toxic reactions in the process. Pastor Nick said, if you really want to get to know a person, watch how they act when times get hard, because it is nothing like challenges that will reveal the real us. You will notice that when God brings the nation out into the promised land, that internally they are still shaped by their slavery. What happened to them in their past has shaped their character and who they are. Internally, our emotions and thought processes have been shaped by previous experiences, whether they were good or bad. So, panel, my first question always, what are your thoughts and feelings about this additional piece to the Letting Go of Toxic People series?
Well, I'm sorry, Dad.
Go ahead, Desiree. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, a lot of times we don't talk about our insecurities. We block those things and don't want to discuss them because you want to put on the face of perfection. And so the fact that he did go through it and break it down and made it in such a way that you need to work on it, for the better. I was very appreciative of it.
Yes, love it. Rev, did you want to add?
No, I fully agree. I fully agree with what you said there, Desiree. So many times we see insecurities in others, but we're not paying attention to the insecurities in ourselves, right?
Yes.
And as Pastor Nick said yesterday, as God took the people out of Egypt, but the Egypt was still in the people, so to speak. And many times God moves us from one place to another, and we can see him starting to move us, but for whatever reason, we tend to hold on to where he's moving us from, as opposed to just going to and going along with him. We all know I can do all things, greater is he that is in me. We all know that stuff, but we have to actually embrace it and let him pull us along. So it's an important aspect that Pastor Nick talked about yesterday, that how do we look at this from a self stamp of not anybody else, me? How am I dealing with my insecurities, and how do I get through that and get through it with God, right? You get through it with God.
Yeah, and if I could just add on to that, I feel like this was a great way to, Pastor Nick and Bishop, when they do these series, it's always incredible ways how they bounce off of each other. So, in the beginning of the series, we talk about, those toxic people that are around us, whether our friends, our immediate family, and the Bishop started talking about that toxicity. Now, Pastor Nick is now we identify the toxic people around us, that toxicity around us. Now let's look at what is, basically the foundation for that toxicity, which is the doubt, which is the insecurities. But like you said, Rev, I think it's now like looking at it like saying self, like we can quote scriptures, we can say different sermons, but when it comes to actually allowing it to apply to us in our situations, that sometimes is an insecurity for us.
Yeah. No, you're right.
Deacon Antoine, did you want to
add? Nothing new, but I mean, I just thought it was a fantastic addition to the series already. I felt as though he was adding another piece to the puzzle, how to deal with our toxicity.
Yes.
And how to recognize our own insecurities in regards to the things of God. Because we know our insecurities in regards to other things, but the key thing is how some people think it's oxymoronic to be insecure about God, but the reality is he asks us to do things, touches those insecurities. So it's a fascinating thing to hear, even in a sermon, of that caliber.
Yeah. So we will notice in the text that whenever a need comes up or a problem arises, it was an opportunity to trust in God, but they kept failing the test. Following that, every time they came to a test, they failed because their negativity produced a nature of chronic complaining. Their past produced a nature of chronic complaining, and their internal negativity produced a response of chronic complaints. With that being said, toxic people are chronic complainers because they get into a jam and the first thing that they start to do is complain. Pastor Nick said that complaining about Psalm. So let me ask you guys, like we always, each week, we love being transparent and we love just being real about things. So let me ask you guys, what are some steps that you take that help you stop complaining about certain things and instead see it as a lesson or a blessing?
That's a really good point. This is a long time ago, probably 20 years ago. I was going through something, and Bishop asked me, he said, "How you doing?" I said, "It could be a lot better, but it could be a whole lot worse." And that for me is the key right there. How do I make sure I'm focused on how blessed, how things could be much worse than they really are, right? And focus on that and not let whatever is going on pull you down, while at the same time, all that, we've been in this pandemic, but folks are, it could be worse than it is. So let's focus on the blessing that's in where we are right now. And that's a step that helps me focus on the right things.
I like that, Rev.
What helps me too is doing like gratefulness journaling. So like, what am I grateful for? And it could be as small as like, I'm grateful for a glass of water, or you know what I mean? Like just writing out the things that are happening in your life. And I love what you said, Reverend White, like, because my parents have always said that to me too. It's like, you're not doing, like someone's always doing better than you, but you're doing better than others. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, there's always somebody whose life isn't as, who would, what is it? Someone would always want to be in your shoes. You would always want to be in somebody else's shoes.
That's right.
So it's like, be comfortable in where you are and where you're standing, Right. So, but yeah, one thing that helps me is like writing, just like jotting down, like literally what I'm grateful for. Because even like, oh, I don't like my job, but at least you have a job. Oh, I don't like this, but at least I have a car. You know what I mean? So it's like, you can't, again, there's people that are out here suffering where it's like, you have these things, and not even just things, but you have people, you have family, you have loved ones. Like, what do you have that is good, that is positive? Hold on to those things. And don't think about the ones that you're missing out on, or, missing out.
I love that.
She's preaching.
Yes. Welcome to the recap. They drop gems up here. They try to say that they're scared of the questions and all that. They do an amazing job, Rev. Go ahead, Deacon, because I know you got some gems you got to drop tonight.
Pressure. God. I think for me, I just being thankful in all things, and remembering that it could be worse, and remembering that God is good even when the situation is bad. That He's always there, He's always present. The main thing that I typically do is I just appreciate the small stuff.
Yeah.
The fact that I do, as Des said, I do have a job. That I can walk on my own, I can hear on my own, I can eat whatever I want, practically, because some people are struggling to find out, when's that next meal coming.
That's right.
Some people are, I can't walk, I wish I could walk. I wish I could talk on my own, I wish I could bathe myself. Like, it's different things that we take for granted that people are fighting for every day. And that's the main thing that keeps me very, very focused and very, very grateful during those difficult times.
That's good. No, that's good. And I think just all with everything that you guys said, that's so important, like journaling and just looking at the small things and just saying like, hey, it could be a lot worse. So, and sometimes I think people, and kind of relating it to prayer, like when they go and pray to God, they never know what to say, but it's just the small things. It's just like, thank you for letting me get up this morning. Thank you for, allowing me to put my shoes on my feet. There's someone that's not able to do that. Thank you for allowing me to lock my door. I have a door to come into and come to go out of, right?
That's right.
That's real. That's real.
That's real.
So
that's real.
It's the little things that, we have to be thankful for and grateful for that keeps us fueled up during this time, especially like Rev said, during this pandemic. There's a lot of things that could have went left for us, but, God has kept us and allowing you right now to be listening and watching, right?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Des.
I was going to say one thing that I've that's been coming to me more and more lately is like honor where you are and honor what you have. Because like, what is it like? God is not going to bless you with more if you're not taking care of or appreciating or loving what it is that you already have. So it's like, if I'm sitting here worried about like, oh, I don't have the latest, greatest next thing. It's like, well, why would God even give that to me when I'm not even appreciative of what he put in front of me to begin with? So that's something that has really been like on my heart, heavy, like honor where you are, like more is coming, but you got to get right where you are right now. Like, you can't sit here and be all in your feelings about where you are. And then once he takes you to where you're supposed to be and you still like, you didn't get past that emotional part of like wanting to be somewhere where you're not supposed to be yet, so
yes, of course. And it's like a test too, because it's like, God is not God's not about to bless you with a house if you can't take care of your apartment.
Facts.
God's not going to bless you with a better job if you can't do your responsibilities on your job now.
Bishop uses the example of like having the clothes all over the floor. Like, why would I buy more clothes if I see what you're doing, what you have already?
Exactly. Being grateful and thankful for those small things. Something I forgot to mention is that also yesterday we had that amazing Q&A with Pastor Nick and Pastor P. I encourage you guys to please go back and watch that, because we love when our leadership comes together and, they just have an open, candid conversation, especially about the word and how they make it so relatable for us. So I strongly encourage you guys to please go back and watch that discussion as well to go with this word. So the issue with the nation of Israel is that they kept complaining about God and they saw God as the problem. They kept complaining about the very place that God delivered them from, and they were complaining about God. Toxic people are chronic complainers, and they are chronic complainers. because they get excited about bad and very mute about good. Toxic people use the past to dictate present and future choices. So there may be someone watching right now that is struggling with allowing their past to dictate their present and future choices. What advice would you give them?
Well, y'all can hear that. It's a little loud.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's all right though.
We can hear you more. It's overpowering.
Yeah. So I would say, as Bishop says, you can't let your past be the blueprint of your future. It actually prepares you for your future. In the past, you learn a lot of different things. The biggest thing the first steps you have to do is kind of forgive yourself and give yourself grace for any mistakes that you may have made. Go to God for redemption, of course, so that He can free you from, that past thing that's holding you back. A lot of times it's fear. A lot of times it's regret. A lot of times it's shame. Especially in our lives when God presents something so good, and then immediately we're just like, why me? Because I used to do all of these things. Sometimes we don't think we're worthy of His goodness.
Yes.
And the moments that we have those realistic times where we just say, okay, God, this is me. Forgive me for this. Let's move forward, because He called you in spite of your past. He chose you in spite of what you did back then, and He's going to use that to propel you. Like, this is why so many people have these great testimonies, because God uses those things that we did that weren't the best to show His goodness in the end, and to be an encouragement to somebody else. So just be encouraged. Your past, is your past, and it's back there for a reason. Don't go back there.
That's right. That's
push
right.
forward, because God has something great in store for you.
Right. Rev or Sister Des?
Could you actually ask the question one more time?
Of course. I said that there may be someone watching right now that's struggling with allowing their past to dictate their present and future choices.
Gotcha.
What advice would you give them?
It's going to be hard, and it really and first I would say pray, because whatever is in your past that keeps trying to pull you, like, pray to try to break those soul ties to whatever it is that is calling you back to your past, and whatever it is, or whoever it is, because a lot of times those are the things that'll trip us up, as those soul ties, not even just to people, but to things or places or habits, so just pray to kind of like get to break those things, to break that barrier, to break that hold over you. I was talking to a younger Christian, and he's about, I think he's 18. And he was telling me how, not to put his business out there, I don't want to share too much of his story, but he was just sharing with me how he was going through a situation that was really hard for him. And he had somebody pray over him, and he was praying while they were praying over him. And he felt the chains kind of break. Like, he literally said he felt everything drop off of him. And that is when he was like, okay, I can do this. I can go forward now. So sometimes all you really need is that prayer, that moment of prayer, and to have somebody to touch and agree with you, and not that cute prayer, God help me in this. That ugly, you might your hands are in the air. You might be laid out on the floor, screaming, the ones that really that shake heaven and hell, that just move, Sometimes those are the moments that really and then once you're done praying and you're done and you finally get a tissue, it's whew, you feel light, because it's everything is now broken off of you, So that can definitely help get the past off of you, or from chasing you, So
breaking those chains, just those strongholds.
Yeah.
Rev White, would you like to add to that? What advice would you give someone?
I think both Deacon McGee and Sister Des have given some real good advice there. At the end of the day, we all four of us know I can do something about my present and my future. I can't do anything about my past. Jesus came and died and bled and rose again because to take away those past sins. As long as I've repented and in true, and that doesn't mean I won't fall again. It doesn't mean I won't fall again. But he came and took care of that. And he's allowed the Holy Spirit to indwell in us so that our present and future can be what he would have it to be. So we get hung up a lot of times, and people will make you get hung up on your past. When Jesus said, hey, hold on now, you come to me now. For those that are believers, you've come to me and I've redeemed you of that. And if you don't believe, guess what? I'll do it for you too. And we have to grab onto that and not let ourselves or others hold us prisoner to what happened in the past. Because we can't change it. But Jesus has taken care of that for us. But we can deal with this present and we can deal with this future, and it makes it okay. And then when we're doing that and we get into a place where we're actually able to serve others, whether it's at home, at work, at church, or wherever, it takes it feeds you when you're able to do something for other folks as opposed to just doing for yourself, like all of you do at the church every day during the week. But it helps you let go of those things and see that, hey, I've grown from this and I can now give and be of help to others.
That's so true. That's so true.
I think you said something powerful there when you said, like, for yourself, like, let go, like, don't get in the way of yourself from the past, because I think a lot of us do that. And that whole thing about reputation, about like, oh, you used to be, or you used to, like, sometimes you do that to yourself, like, oh, I used to do this, and how can I do something so great when I used to be like this? So
and that correlates with this message, because like you said, such as you may be around people that say, oh, well, I used to do this, that, and the third. But we learned that through this series that's a toxic person. So what we have to do is set those boundaries you won't hear that repetitive thinking, that repetitive speaking into your life. So y'all did it.
And you get to that point where folks want to remind you of it. You can say, yeah, I sure did.
What does Bishop always say? I was sinning and was loving it, or something like that.
And good at it. And good at it.
And good at it.
Right.
Like, I had a good time. It's like,
having a conversation about it. Right. We having a conversation about it. I'm gonna use past tense. Let's talk about now. Right. That was me back then, but let's talk about now. Right. So they were in Egypt. They cried out to God for deliverance, and God did it. The night that they were delivered, and when they got to the Red Sea and God got them over, they celebrated. As soon as they faced a complication, they started talking about how good Egypt was in comparison to walking with God. This is because toxic people loved the romantic parts of their past. When they face a complication, they ignore the bad parts of their past and only focus on the good. This is a great illustration of how we sometimes complain about our walk with God compared to when we weren't saved. For example, we may say, well, at least I had friends when I wasn't saved, or at least I had more money when I wasn't saved. To sum it all up, we are basically saying that life without God was better than a life with God presently. Toxic people fall in love with the romantic parts of their past. I don't even have a question. I just want to hear your opinion. What is your opinion about toxic people being in love with the romantic parts of their past? I said, Pastor Nick, now you stirring up some stuff now, sir.
A full read.
A full read. A full Christian read. That's what you call a Christian read. What's your opinion about that? Toxic people being in love with the romantic parts of their past. To me, it kind of reminded me of like an abusive relationship where you get beat up and be like, but they love me. That's why they hit me so hard. Or that's why we keep. That's what I use that. Like, that's what came to my head is like, why do we keep going back and forth with our past when, it led us to Christ?
That's right. That's right. That's right.
So
like Bishop says, most of us weren't casual conversions to Christ. Most of us came in because something drove us.
Right.
Yes.
But that for the discussion purpose, the romantic part, I think the reason why we hold on is because most of us feel like we're missing out. And sometimes, just to be honest, we miss it.
Yeah.
Life was probably a little bit more simpler back then. You didn't have to be accountable. You didn't have to be responsible. You didn't have to, worry about your integrity and character. You just did what you did and did not care. Once you become saved, there's a level of care, self-care, care of others, and your care for God. Needless to say, we can hurt God.
Yeah.
We can hurt his heart. We can disappoint him in different ways, so that awakening that happens then makes us miss what happened in the past when we were carefree.
Yeah.
Where we were just out there sinning and having a great time, everything's great. And then next thing you know, oh snap, okay, I gotta be careful. That great awakening that happens when you get saved. It's like, okay,
yeah,
this is not a game.
Right.
I gotta be on my straight and narrow. And then a lot of it is because we don't submit.
Yeah.
We don't submit to the process, or not properly taught how to submit to the process.
Yeah.
And as we teach, young Christians when we're taking them back to counsel them, the reality is that there's two people inside of us, at least two, right? We've heard that from Mr. Bolton. There's at least two. Some have some have many more, but there's at least two. And before we get saved, the flesh is here and the spirit is here, and the flesh does what it wants. But as we get saved and we start reading the word, surrounding ourselves with saints, praying, communing with God, the spirit gets stronger. That stuff in the flesh never goes away. It goes away. It's just that the spirit has gotten strong enough to push it down. So even though we want to romanticize it, even though there's Rich and then there's Richard, and Rich is a different dude than Richard, And when Rich rises up, you got the Rich has to come out and say, no, you can't come out and play today. And it doesn't always, I'm not always successful in that.
Yeah.
But because that's part of me. Richard is real, just like Richard. They're both real, and they both want to be alive, and they both want to. And Richard wants to be in control like he was for all those years before I got saved, right?
Yeah.
So that's what's as simplistic as it is those two people, at least two, are always at battle inside of us.
Damn.
Yes.
And it's real.
Yes.
It's not something that's just and it's never gonna go away.
Right.
So you have to be able to control that.
Yeah.
That's the challenge. Therein lies the challenge, I believe.
And I think the beautiful thing is we're not in that fight alone.
Right.
That's why I said the submission part, where we have to be like, okay, all right, this person is up today. Let's pray and get him under control. Or your thoughts may go astray, and you're like, okay, let's bring it back in. That awareness and self-care as far as your spiritual man is concerned, because then with the two natures being alive, that causes friction, because then you're like, how come I'm not far enough in spirit? Well, you've been letting your flesh run the vehicle for a while, so you gotta, as you said, you gotta do that seesaw thing and put one up in front of it. I like that illustration. I like that. I'm borrowing.
I like that illustration.
I'm just letting you know. You might see that.
It's yours. It's yours. But as Pastor Nick said, with regard to Egypt and Israel coming out of Egypt, there's nothing wrong with fear and having a reverence for God. Because when you have that fear or reverence for God, you don't have to be scared of anything else.
Right.
But when you don't have that fear and reverence for God, you kind of have to be scared of everything else because you don't have any control. Right. So it's and they didn't have that. Even though he took them through, they didn't show that, that reverence, that fear of him when he brought them through. Without him, they would have had to fear everything because they didn't know what Egypt was going to do. Egypt was in control.
I like that.
My visual was similar to yours, Kevin. Like I thought immediately of in a relationship kind of dynamic of, you left this person, you left Egypt, you got out of Egypt, you got out with your mind, right? Got everything together that's supposed to be together. You're now walking, you're now in provision, you're now in purpose. You're now on the path to where you're supposed to be, right? Now, why are you thinking about this thing that dragged you down, that pulled you back? My mind did the same exact thing as you, Kev, because I also oftentimes we do that. And I think that plays on the insecurity because it goes back to the, okay, am I not good enough to be here? Or to move past this place. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, and I think that might have been the mindset of the children of like, in their head, they were still where they were because it was like, well, we're in this great place now, but it's like, well, maybe we should have just stayed back there. At least we would have, you know what I mean? At least we had security in knowing whatever, like, it's like when people, what is it? What's the saying? Like, I forget what the saying is, but essentially it's like the devil I know was better than the devil I don't know. That type of thing. So it's like,
the better the devil you know. That's
something like that. But it's like, is that kind of thought process of like, well, I don't know what's coming or I don't know what's ahead, but I know where I know who this thing is, what this thing is. So I'm gonna just stay and settle in here. But the thing that they miss, and the thing that I think a lot of us miss, is that because we are and we do walk with God, everything that we do has to be for our good as long as we believe in him. So it's like, okay, we had like, are you going to be insecure about it or are you going to have faith? Like, and like, we've all been there. Like, I've been there. And so like, and it's like Rev White said, it is something that kind of, it doesn't go away, but it can get diminished. Like it can, the one side can diminish. The side of insecurity, the side of doubt, the side of, you know, I'm not supposed to be in this place. It's like, no, you are. Keep growing on the other side, you know? So, yeah.
That's really good. That's really good.
I like that. And I think it just goes back to, like we always say, those comfort zones, right?
Yeah, man.
How we get, we don't grow, like Bishop teaches us. You don't grow in that, but you got to step out of it. So, you know, sometimes you gotta just let go and let God, right? So toxic people always focus on the hardship and not the promise. They are so caught up on the giants that they lose faith in what God said. They are so caught up in what it will take to receive the promise that it will override the promise that God gave them. Pastor Nick wants us to remember that the path to promise is paved with adversaries. And if God gave you the promise, then the overcoming of the adversaries is a part of the process. Toxic people focus on the negative to validate their fears. They only focus on the hardships to give them a reason not to do it. They look for ways not to do it, and then they find the confirmation so they will not do it. They will go into it knowing that they don't want to do it, only to find a reason not to do it, no matter how big or small it may be. If God gave you the promise, he also included the hardship. So, panel, I want to discuss this idea of toxic people focusing on the negative to validate their fears. What were your initial thoughts when Pastor Nick said that in the sermon?
I think, like, in the recap, I mean, not in the recap. We're in the recap. in the discussion with Pastor P and Pastor Nick, they mentioned something about, like, what did they say? Like, if you, say it again, Kev, because I just had it and I lost.
Toxic people focusing on a negative to validate their fears.
Right. So, and what did they say? Like, you put yourself, I'm paraphrasing what they say. Like, you put yourself in a situation and, you know, you're telling yourself, like say in a job situation, it's like, oh, you know, I'm not gonna be good at this job. I'm not good enough for this job. Or, you know, you're just talking down the whole time, you know, when people around you are like, you're going to do great. But then on the other end of it, you end up messing up because you psyched yourself out the whole time talking negative. So what is it? The self-fulfilling prophecy. That's what it is. That's what I'm like, they said something and it was like, what is it? The self-fulfilling prophecy is like, whatever you're doing, you're talking yourself, you know, you're manifesting this whole thing because you're sitting here talking all of this death over yourself where you should be talking life over yourself and over your situation and over whatever you're trying to do, you know. So that was heavy because I think a lot of people do that, you know, and that, again, that's insecurity moving in you. You thinking you're not good enough for something. So it's like, oh, I'm not good enough for this. I'm not even going to try. Or this person's going to hurt me, so I'm not even going to try to go there. And it's like, no, like, be vulnerable, open yourself up because you don't know, you know, like, stop speaking death over yourself and over your situation because
that's right.
what is yeah.
No, that. I mean, I think you're right on top of it, right, Sister Des, because you think about an athlete. We have all these examples in the Bible, whether it's athleticism or judicial or agricultural or legal. An athlete doesn't go out there to lose. When they go out there, they're believing they're going to win.
Right.
Right. A farmer plants, he's believing his crop's going to come up. And many times, as you said, when we get that negative energy, whether it's self-fulfilling prophecy or it's because we've surrounded ourselves with that type of energy, we sometimes and oftentimes are the reason why we aren't successful when we don't go into that thing thinking, I'm going to win. Well, God has told us we're going to win because he already won. It's finished, right? So we have to make sure we stay there and do like David. Many times we've all had to do. We've had to encourage ourselves. You have to encourage yourself. Sometimes it's not going to encourage is not going to come from anybody. It has to come from within. But we have to go into this thing thinking we're going to win, that we belong, we're children of God, we're heirs to the throne, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
Go ahead, Rev. Deacon Antoine.
I ain't got no.
But it's crazy to me how some people think like they should expect good things if they continue to have a negative mindset. So that's like it's kind of like if you keep saying, oh, let's say you're in school, I'm going to fail this test, I'm going to fail this class. You're going to fail. You're already putting that in your mind. So you're already putting it out there like, oh, this test is going to be hard, or this paper is going to take me out, or something like that. But it's crazy how you have that negative mindset, but they still expect a little bit of, some goodness to come in there, right?
You know what's crazy? I'm sorry, Dee, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'll wait.
I was just gonna say it's crazy because people in the world understand that thought process. Mm-hmm. It's so like I don't understand why it's so hard for us Christians to grasp that, because if you look at the wealthiest people in the world, they don't wake up and go, I'm broke. How am I gonna pay this? It's like, no, I'm gonna make this. I'm gonna make it work. I'm gonna get it done. Mm-hmm. Like Rev White said, like athletes don't go out and go like, I hope I play good today. It's like, no, let's do it. People in the world do it all the time. All the time. Everybody does it. Look at to be like light for a second. Look at the money resides guy. He's not worried about. He's manifesting. He's saying, I'm gonna speak this life. It's coming to me. But that's one thing that Christians we don't do. We don't go like. It's like we say all the time. Like we say with our mouths, oh, I expect God to move. But in our hearts, are we expecting God to move? Like, are we actually doing it? So, yeah.
That's real. That's real.
That's good. That's good. Deacon, did you want to add?
I was going to say, like, when we have these negative thoughts, we're actually sowing that negativity into our actions.
Right.
I've been on the opposite side where I was like, ooh, I'm not going to do too good on this test. Mm-hmm. And knowing that I studied, but feeling feeling in my heart, like I'm not gonna do too good on this test. And as I'm taking the test, things that I knew, like literally knew, I'm looking at taking the test, scratching my head. Before you know it, here comes the 50. I'm just like, Lord Jesus, and then not knowing that because I spoke it, it happened, and it transforms your actions just so quickly. Like you have to. That's why the Bible says guard your heart.
That's right.
We have to guard it, and you can't expect God to do it because He said you guard your heart.
Right.
That's our responsibility, and we have to sometimes guard our heart from our own negativity. Because the thing is, as everybody said, like all these people out here who are winning and killing the game, it's because they think positive.
Yeah.
A negative moment, sometimes they don't even let it come out of their mouths.
Right.
Because once it comes out of your mouth, it becomes a very permanent thing.
Yeah.
So we have to be careful where it really flows out of our mouth. It's okay. If it's here, it's okay. As Bishop says, if it gets here, it's okay. Just don't let it come out of here.
Yeah.
Because once it comes out,
can't get it back.
It's a wrap.
It's out there. So toxic people lean towards the negative over the positive. Toxic people listen to the 10 instead of the 2. We learned that Joshua and Caleb were trying to get the people to say that we can do this, but the other 10 people were saying they couldn't do it. The voice of negativity is always louder than the voice of positivity. In the same sense, louder does not always mean right, because volume does not mean someone is right. They listen to the voices of negativity because it confirms their own inner fears, doubts, and insecurities. You have to know when a word is appealing to your doubts, fears, and insecurities, and not let something or someone negative appeal to that side of you. Our job is to listen to the voice of faith over the voices of fear, and not allow the voice of toxic fear feed the internal fears that reside inside of you. Right. So Rev White said earlier that, we have at least 2 people living inside of us, or more, depending on who you are, right? So let me ask you guys, you know that other side of yourself, right? So how do you personally stop anything negative from appealing to your internal fears, doubts, or insecurities from that other side?
One, I isolate myself from people who would feed that negative side. So if I know, for instance, I just dropped a single on Friday.
Yes, congratulations.
Thank you. So doing that, there was a lot of internal wrestling going on. Think, you're not a gospel person. You sing it, but your real heart is in R&B. And other people were like, nah, man, you should be doing secular music. You should be doing that. And it was a very vulnerable place for me, because if you listen to the words in the song, I'm speaking a very vulnerable prayer, where I'm telling people exactly where I am in that moment. It's like a modern day psalm. So in doing that, people were like, nah, dog, don't do it. What are people going to think when they hear this song? Like, you're telling all your beans right here. I said, I'd rather me tell it than somebody else tell it. But I said, I also rather it bless somebody than me hold it in and then not bless anybody else. What good is it doing sitting on my computer?
Right.
Exactly.
Good. So why not do it? So that, but for that thing is, I isolate myself. And then I, as Reverend said, encourage myself in the Lord. Okay, God, I know you called me to do this. You put this in me to do. I trust you. I'm going to release this thing. He gave me the funds to release it, because it does not, if you're doing it is not cheap. You got to pay some money to do these things. So everything lined up, and all it was is just push the button. And I sat on that thing for 3 weeks before I pressed the button.
Wow.
And so, isolating myself from certain people, but then also remembering what God said. Even when my internal voice is speaking louder than his voice. It's like, okay, he said this though. It was a back and forth wrestling match, but that's my practical steps. Isolating myself and just remembering what he said, speaking the word. Not my own words, but what he said in the Bible. It would help me a lot, especially in the Book of Psalms.
Yeah.
Amen.
I like that. Thank you, Deacon, and congratulations again, sir. Rev White, Sister Des, do you want to add to that? How do you personally stop anything negative from appealing to your internal fears, doubts, or insecurities?
So what I'm really sensitive and particular about what I consume. Because I know that if I put on certain music, if I listen to certain things, if I, you know what I mean, if I go to certain pages on Instagram, like, I know that a different part of me is going to try to rise up. So in that, because I know that about myself, I'm very, very cautious of like what I'm consuming.
Yeah.
And it was difficult in the beginning, because it goes back to that conversation of like missing your old self, because it's like, well, it's just, you think like, oh, it's just a song, but it's like, no, no, this song is doing something to my spirit. Like, I feel something different going on right now. So it's like just really challenging myself on that so that I don't. And it's not even like negative in like a sad negative way. It's just negative in the sense of like
behavior.
I know that I know that I'm supposed to be doing something different with my time, with my spirit, with my energy, and I know that this is feeding a different side of me that I'm trying to die to. So, yeah,
that's good. That's good. Rev White.
Well, I think Sister Des knocked it out the park right there. I mean, you gotta you can't be feeding your, like she said, how are you feeding yourself? What are you feeding yourself? You know, if I got my heart broke, I shouldn't be sitting around listening to sad songs all day, right?
Right.
No.
We're not listening to Luther Vandross.
Exactly. I love Luther, but now's not the time to listen to so, and that can be, you know, whether it's and a lot of times, and this is real talk, as believers, there's some type, when we're in those places, there's some type of gospel music we shouldn't be listening to either, because it can kind of make you sad sometimes.
Yeah, because some of them things are really, really dark.
It can make you sad. So you got to make sure you're doing something that is uplifting and feeding you, and make sure you protect. You got to watch. I just like what Sister Desiree said. You know, you got to watch what you're feeding yourself.
Yeah.
Well, Rev, you just woke it up.
Think about it. Like, if you're struggling, you can listen to a song that's about struggle.
Yeah.
You gotta listen to something that's gonna uplift you out the struggle.
That's so true. That's so true. And I think, just like you guys said, you gotta watch what you consume. It's just like if you're trying to lose weight, you can't consume things that's gonna keep you fat. Right?
That's right. That's right.
You gotta shed those pounds. So you gotta change up that regimen.
That lifestyle change. Yeah.
Right.
That's all right.
People that are toxic tend to listen to the negative over the positive and get excited about it. This is because negative people love negative things. When people show an interest in the negative more than the positive, they are revealing that internal negativity, because toxic people get excited about negative over the positive. Toxic people have evidence and still do not believe. Toxic people can have the evidence that it is God and still not believe it. It is not that they do not believe that it is God, is that and that God said it. They just do not believe that they can do it. They believe it for others, but other than themselves. Toxic people will have the evidence, but are too insecure to go after what God has for them. Pastor Nick asked the question, how many of us have been delaying what God wants us to do because we are afraid?
The full read.
Let me, the Christian read.
Oh my God.
So let's discuss the importance of identifying our insecurities and learning how to manage them as the last question of tonight. The importance of identifying our insecurities and learning how to manage them.
There's so many ways to do this. I guess the first thing is just being honest with yourself about what makes you uncomfortable, because insecurity somewhat feels like an uncomfortable feeling. You're like uneasy about a certain thing. Like, you know, for instance, when we first started doing this, I was like, no. But, you know, as we started to do it more and more, it was like, okay, we can do this thing, you know. You know, even our board at Bethany's, you know, that brought out a lot of insecurities. Like, I don't like the sound of my voice. But but you know, dealing with those things, you know, I'm trying not to be too heavy on people, but you know, the real practical things would be, you know, being honest with yourself, working on those insecurities.
Yes.
You know? Whether you're working on it by yourself or you're working on it with people whom you trust to deal with you in those vulnerable areas.
Yeah.
That is a big thing for you know, for me. Like, for as far as speaking is concerned, I go to other people before I go out to talk about something or have a discussion about a thing. That's two things. And then on a spiritual aspect, you know, go before the Lord, you know, in prayer. You know, just ask him. You know, ask him for the strength to overcome that insecurity. You know, because here's the thing: he knows, he has the antidote. So if you ask him, for help in that area. His grace, his grace will show up. Moses stuttered. I'm sure he was insecure about speaking. So, that's why he gave him Aaron, but there were a lot of occasions where Moses was talking himself, and it doesn't look like he was stuttering in the scriptures. It didn't have a t in it at all. It was just straight
ignorant.
Yeah, so I'm just saying, you go to
that wasn't the word.
You see someone reading scripture.
You're not right for that.
Yo, y'all.
That's what the Lord said.
Lord.
Somebody out there might be. Nah, don't do that.
No, because you did it. You started it.
Now I'm thinking of all these things Moses said, and I'm trying to let my people go.
We gotta move because this is not right. Because these people are speech impediments. Y'all not right.
You gotta move.
We gotta move. Forgive us, Lord.
Talk about the importance, Rev, and Sister Des, the importance of identifying our insecurities and learning how to manage them.
I'm back.
Oh, Lord. Yeah, bring
I'm back. Okay. Go ahead, sis.
No, I had to write mine down because I feel like when everybody starts talking, I forget Kev's questions. So I was like, let me make sure. But the first thing, speaking from myself, like personal experience that has helped me get out your own way, and like really, like in order to do that, you really have to lean into God and what He says. Like be silent enough to hear what He says to you. And even ask for visions of like, okay, God, what do you see for my life? Because God, like I've had different moments where I'm just like, and I've shared some with Bishop and Pastor Nick. I'm like, okay, so I see this thing, I see that, and I'm just like, or I've shared some with my friends and stuff, and I'm just like, I see this for myself, but I don't know how I'm gonna get here, And it's just like, but I know that I see it and it's clear, so it's possible, which means that like this is on the path that I'm supposed to do. But in order for me to get there, I can't be in my way. I can't continue to block myself because then I'll never get to where I'm going. So the first thing is to really just step aside, let God move for real.
Yeah.
The second thing I would say is to, I like how you said, talk to others, like, because a lot of times other people, trusted people who really have your back, they will tell you your insecurities. Like my mom, love her to death, but sometimes her tough love is necessary. But
ain't nothing like it though.
No, but it's necessary because you need people to call you out on your stuff. You need people to sit there and go like, you are doing X, Y, and Z, and this is what's hurting you. Like my mom, she touched. Like I'm not gonna share what my downfall is because haters can't know your downfall. No, but I'm kidding. But no, like, you need people who are going to point out your flaws, your insecurities, not in a hateful or a malice kind of way, but in a way of reconstruction and proper criticism that goes like, hey, you may not have seen that this thing is hurting you, but I'm going to show you, like, fix this, align this. And once you do this, it'll be good as long as you get this in order. So go to people who you legit trust. And you really have like in your heart of hearts, they have your back. And then thirdly, just go for it. Just do whatever, do whatever that thing is, whatever that thing is that you keep holding yourself back from, I know y'all see my dog. Can you stop? Anyway, he's been whining all day. Anyway, so like just go for it. I remember in one of our fresh meetings a while back when we were in person.
Oh, the
fear factor. They Pastor Nick had us write down like 2 to 3 of things that we feared most, and that we really didn't. That really terrified us and challenged us to why they scared us so much. And for me, all 3 of my things wasn't a fear of like fear of failure. It was like, well, what if I do succeed? Then what? So just going for it, just doing it. And, sometimes you miss your window of when like if you're supposed to, write a book or something. Yeah. Sometimes you could have missed that window of like, if I would have wrote this book already, I could have been on a whole world tour and everybody could have been reading my book during quarantine. But that's okay, because the way our God works is that he'll come right back around and give you second, third, fourth, fifth chances. Just like Pastor P said on the discussion, he'll come right back around and then like create new windows and new avenues for you to do that thing that was always on your heart to do. You just have to go for it. You just have to do it. And trust that if it was put in the will for you to do and succeed, it's going to happen regardless. It has to. It literally has to happen. So
I like that.
Somebody put her Cash App up.
Right. She done gave us steps and things that could, you know what, Rev White.
I think we got the 3 steps. I think, let's just end with hey, I'm not going to add nothing to that. I got plenty, but I'm going to leave that. That was very succinct and direct and to the point. So bless you, sister.
I love it.
Thank you, Rev.
Toxic people allow their insecurities to dominate their thoughts. Toxic people assume that other people see them the way that they see themselves. Your self-perception can stop God from working in your life. Yeah. You have to remember that you serve a big God, even though you are small. God is transforming us to get that Egypt out of us. Mm-hmm. So before we go into announcements, panel, is there any final words, any final comments, any final questions you have about this additional layer to this cake that we're making, this letting go of toxic people cake that we bake each week?
As we enter into the final days of 2020, take the time to go back and listen to these things.
Yes.
Reflect, because we're setting up for prayer and fasting, and this is going to be the best time, for introspection and to go to God about these, these toxic things that are going on around you. But yeah, definitely go back and watch, ask your questions, post them in the chats. We're there. We're here to help you through. We don't know where we're going after this, so just be prepared. That's why I always say, go back and watch it, because we don't know what the next series is going to be. It's going to build off of this. So
yes,
be ready.
I love it. And like Deacon Antoine said, please go back. We are at the end of 2020, and we want you guys to go back and watch all of the content, the panels that are posted, because each and every panel, each and every discussion is set up on purpose to help your healing and help you stay connected during this time. So we encourage you guys to go back and also share it. I always say that we can do some remote evangelizing by sharing the content and getting that word out. It's just as simple as just pressing the share button. So as we are going into this week, coming up tomorrow night, we have the Men's Safe House. Deacon Antoine, since you are in the Men's Safe House ministry, can you give us a little bit what we have going on tomorrow?
So tomorrow we're going to be talking about finishing strong, strong faith. And we're going to also be talking about thankfulness. In spite of the difficulties of 2020, we're going to talk about how to be more thankful for what God has done during this time. So that's all I'm going to give you for free. Tune in tomorrow. You
got a little sneak peek.
Tune in tomorrow at 7 and see us. I will be on the panel.
Awesome.
It'll be a great time.
Awesome. And remember, we also have Word Impact on Wednesday at 7 p.m. We get fed on Sunday. We also get fed on Wednesday, as well as On Point Radio on Saturday at 9 a.m. Gives you multiple times to talk to our leadership and just, bust it up and talk about what's going on out in this world, current events, as well as what's happening up in the house. So we have a special holiday that's coming up at the end of this week. It's Christmas. And, we want to be see, Sister Des, she done brought her. She's so festive. So, Sister Des, I need you to keep it on now.
It's going to say, I promise.
All right. So, as we are preparing for Christmas is that time to give. And we want to be a special blessing to our bishop and his family. So we are taking up a special offering for the First family as we prepare them for the end of this year, this Christmas gift, and then also preparing for this new year. I know Bishop has touched us and, you know, helped us in multiple ways. And, you know, we just want to be a blessing back to him because he, especially during this time, we see it because we work behind the scenes, but Bishop has been working hard in this quarantine as well. This man, I don't know when he sleeps. I really don't. So we want to be a special blessing to him. So you can give on all of our platforms. You can go to our website, Giveify, and it will be a special offering to Bishop and the First Family. Okay. Also, we want to prepare you not only for Christmas, but New Year's Eve. It, as you know, we love having a party in the plaza for New Year's Eve. And you know, even though COVID happened, we are still going to have that party and that celebration remotely. Now, don't get excited. I know y'all was a little excited, but no, we are still going to celebrate remotely, but we want to celebrate with you. So we want you guys to be a part of the service. So we will have watch night service. Service will start at 10 p.m. on New Year's Eve. And also we will be submitting, putting all of your videos that you submit to us in the service. So please submit any New Year's Eve services that you, New Year's Eve videos that you may have, just saying Happy New Year's or what you're thankful for, what you're expecting for, so we can put you into the service and you can count down with us remotely. Bethany family, we love coming together. So we want you to be a part of it. So please submit them to social at GoToBethany. Again, social at GoToBethany. Some other reminders I just want to give you. Remember, we are starting our fast as we always do every year. We finished this year off strong by, you know, fasting into this new year and believing that God is going to do something miraculous in this new year. Right. And no better way to start this new year by just, you know, fasting and clearing your mind and just not just fasting from food, but fasting from all the negativity that we may have experienced this year. This is the purpose of this fast. And coming out of this quarantine and everything that we have going on right now, I don't think there's no better time to fast than now. Right. And going into this new year. So we will be starting our fast on December 29th. And, you know, we get to eat after watch night service, as well as taking up our first fruit offering. All right. You can also give that on all of our platforms, on the website, Giveify. You can also text it as well. So, Bethany family, even though we are coming to the end of this year, we have some exciting things coming up, and we want you guys to stay tuned. And then also, as we are preparing for this new year with all this incredible new ideas and content that we have cooking up behind the scenes, we want you guys to go back and stream and make sure you share all the past content. The board at Bethany, also our Engaged Live. We just experienced our 3rd week of Engaged Live. We are loving you guys engaging with us, you playing the games with us. You know, let us know what you want to see on Engaged Live as well, right? But Bethany family, we love you. We thank you for tuning in each and every week. Thank you for sharing the content and just being so consistent. On the behalf of the panel and myself, we want to wish you a very Merry Christmas. It is my prayer that this season brings you nothing but joy, renewed faith, and just happiness and peace during this time. No matter what we went through to 2020, we are believing that this Christmas season and this New Year's that we're going into is going to be something incredible. So Bethany family, please stay tuned to all the content that's coming out this week. And, you know, be blessed and have a very Merry Christmas. Panel. Great discussion. Love you guys. Love
Bye,
you,
guys.
Bethany family. See you next Monday.